Haoxi Cup!
Centennial Cup champions in 2024.
Welcome, everyone. This is the OJHL All Access Podcast. Alex Bastiavansky here. Great to have you along for another show, and it's going to be a good one, no question about it. I've got a couple of different guests coming on today, and the first is a guy who's garnering a ton of attention from NHL scouts this year. He's hard to miss considering he's 6'6" and 215 pounds already at just 17 years of age. Simon Wang, the defenseman from the King Rebellion by way of Beijing, China, will join me. His game has grown by leaps and bounds this season, and he was recently named to NHL Central Scouting's Players to Watch list for next June's draft. He's also got a scholarship to Boston University, and he's going to begin suiting up for the Terriers next fall. So we are pumped to have Simon coming on to share his fascinating story of how he started playing the game and ended up in Canada and where he hopes to take his hockey career. Also, Hayden Burnell, the social media manager for the King Rebellion, will join me to talk about the team, about Simon Wang, and of course, teammate Mikhail Zakharov, who was also listed on the Players to Watch list for next year's draft. But it won't be just the King Rebellion we chat about. We'll also cover the latest from the OJHL, including a look at the three other players who were listed on those NHL rankings. And so happy to be joined now by the big D-man from the King Rebellion, Simon Wang. But before we start, Simon, I'm going to actually get you to pronounce for me so I don't mess it up. Your Chinese first name first. How do we actually say it?
Haoxi. Wang Haoxi, that's my full name. But in China, we usually pronounce our last name before the first name to show the respect to our ancestor and stuff like that. Yeah.
You are garnering a lot of attention. I should say, I actually just got an email from Jim Mason, who's the communications director for the OJHL, and he said, because he knows we're interviewing today, he said, in my 7 years here with the OJHL, we have had an unprecedented number of media requests related to Simon, The Athletic, The Hockey News, Daily Faceoff. So you are garnering a ton of attention right now. We're going to get to the current stuff in a moment. First of all, before we do that, let's talk about your backstory a little bit, because it is fascinating. You're from Beijing originally, came to Canada just a few years ago. But, I mean, we've got to talk about this background here, because as much as hockey has grown in popularity in China over the last few years, I think it's fair to say that it's not one of the most popular sports compared to some of the other ones. So how did you end up playing hockey in the first place in China?
Yeah, it's a really interesting story. I started off when I was 4.5. So one of my friends in kindergarten school told me, you got to check out this new sport. We have cool cool equipment that looked like Batman, stuff like that. And I went out there, check it out. I told my mom, Mom, I got to get out there as soon as possible. And the next thing you know, I just fall in love with it and just never stop.
But okay, so how tough was it to play organized hockey in China? Was it difficult to find spots to play around Beijing? Was there an organized league with proper coaching? Give us an idea of what that was like.
So we do have a league for youth league there, but the coaching wasn't great. It's different hockey, 100%. The skill level is different. The pace of the game and how players see the ice is different.
Yeah, and so you were how old when you came to Canada then?
I was 12 when I first came to Canada.
12. And the main reason you came to Canada, was it to further your hockey career? Did you realize you had some talent at this and you wanted to come to Canada, that being the main reason?
Yeah, that's probably the main reason why I came here.
Yeah, and who has come over with you? Because I believe I read an article by Ron Valentine, who's the great feature writer for the OJHL, who I had on the show last week, and I believe you mentioned one of your parents is back in China, and one of your parents came with you to Canada. Is that correct?
Yeah, the first year I lived with my friend who also play hockey at the time as well, and my mom just visit me like every 3 months, 4 months. So she's going back and forth. My dad's just staying in China because he's busy with his stuff, and right now my mom's going back and forth as well. So sometime I'm home alone. So yeah.
Sometime home alone. So how when you came here, did you have a connection to get hooked up playing hockey around the Toronto area already?
Yeah, I came here when I was 12. One of my mom's friends hooked me up to play at the Toronto Titans, and I spent 3 years technically, but 1 year was COVID, so it got canceled. I went back to China to train, and after that, COVID came back. Played another year for the Titans. That's my 3rd year with them, and then after played North York Rangers, and went up to junior.
What was your first experience playing hockey here like? Being exposed to the talent level in Canada, what were your first impressions of it?
Obviously, it's a different game compared to China and here. So the pace, I gotta adjust to the pace, the puck movement, and all the other the small details, that the battles in the corners and all that.
Yeah. So talk about the connection with the OJHL then, and how it is that you first got hooked up, because I believe you played 4 games with the North York Rangers 2 years ago. And
Yes.
then you ended up with the Brantford 99ers, who of course are now the King Rebellion. But talk about coming into the OJHL and what that was first like for you.
Obviously, it's mind-blowing. First playing for the North York when I was 15 years old, pace was unreal, and even though I wasn't getting much rep in the game, I was still observing the best players in the league, like how they're playing, and the pace of the game, physicality, the system, and it helped me tremendously for my draft year when I was U16. Like the confidence I have playing with them, and then go back to my U16 team, just a different game, and obviously getting used to the physical part of the game really helped me as well.
So let's talk about the physical part. I mean, you're a big guy. Obviously, this is one of the, along with your skill set, which we'll get to in a moment as well. This is one of the first things that will stand out to people, and that blows scouts away. You're 6'6", you're 215 pounds. Were you always a big kid for your age, or is this just something over the last couple of years that came out of nowhere and you sprouted up? Like, were you always a bit bigger than the average kid?
Yeah, I was growing 3-inch every year since I was a kid, until probably, I'll say, last year I kind of stopped growing, and I think it's
Have you stopped? Are you sure you're done?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm done. So that's something we got to take in and grow into my body. And
well, one thing Boston University is going to do is they'll definitely have you in that weight room, and you'll because I mean, even at 215, you've definitely got some pounds you're going to put on, some muscle for sure. So
yeah,
to add to that frame, we'll talk about Boston University as well in a second as well, because you have a scholarship there as well that you're attending next fall. But one of the things that stands out really, and that scouts have been taking note of course, is your mobility out there. And you've got great vision on the ice. You've got an active stick and a long stick, obviously. And your mobility for someone who's 6'6" and 215 pounds, remarkable to watch. So one question I have is, were there other sports that you feel have helped you with your hockey mobility? I'll just give you an example. It's maybe different sports, but you know who Zach Edey is?
No.
Okay, Zach Edey was the reigning NCAA basketball player of the year the last 2 years, the Wooden Award winner. He played for Purdue, and now he's drafted in the first round of the Memphis Grizzlies. So he's from Toronto. He's 7'4", 300 pounds. So he's a bit bigger, okay? But Zach played hockey for years. I believe the last few years was with the Toronto Junior Canadiens. He played high-level hockey. And he was a baseball player. But he's credited hockey with having a great spin-off effect on his basketball skills with, quickness and toughness and things like that. So that's why I'm just interested in knowing, are there any other sports that you feel helped you sort of transition to hockey to have the mobility that you now have?
I think one thing I'll give credit to was when I was in China, every lunch break, me and my friend go out there, just play soccer for an hour during the break. And I feel like the dribbling for like soccer, football, what they call it back there, and really helped my agility on my feet and the quickness on my feet. I think that's one thing.
Makes sense. Yeah. So as a hockey player, though, is there anyone that you pattern your game off, whether it be a big guy out there, a smaller player, whatever, but is there anyone that you feel that you pattern your game after now?
I think definitely there's like a lot of players that I feel I have similarity to. Obviously, the great Victor Hedman. I like the new guy coming up, Mason Lohr. I don't know if you guys heard about him, the Boston Bruin. He's a stud coming up. Really, really skilled and play tough game at the same time. And I'll say like Miro Heiskanen, like how smooth he is with the puck and how poised, his vision and stuff. Yeah.
So as it stands right now, you had a chance to go to the OHL. You were a draft pick of, I believe, the Jennies, right? The Oshawa Generals?
Yes.
You were a draft pick of. Ultimately, you chose Boston University, one of the schools that was after you. So now you're going to Boston University. Macklin Celebrini's old school too, I believe.
Yeah.
Correct? First overall draft pick, so you're going to miss Macklin by a season. But so much talent that goes to that school. Talk about that decision and why you decided you wanted to go to Boston University instead of going the OHL route.
I think a big part of the reason is I think I'm a late bloomer. And I think if I go in the OHL right away, it won't be the best for my development. And another thing that I chose Boston University is because my brother spent all his time in high school, university, and even his master's degrees in Boston. And he went to Boston U for his master's degrees as well. For coincidence, he didn't play sport at all. So visiting him in Boston and watching like the Bruins and the Celtics, it's just a vibe that I want to be a part of.
And he had nothing but good things to say about Boston University,
Yeah.
so it was an easy decision in that regard, huh?
Yeah.
BU's pretty happy then that your brother went there first, that's for sure. So, you were just listed as a player to watch along with other OJHL players. Your teammate, Mikhail Zakharov, also listed. You got a big smile over that, obviously. So it's great to see two of you guys on there. What has it been like at these games, having all these scouts come out, watch games? Do you feel the extra pressure out there?
Not really, because obviously it's great attention. Like, I'm just trying to be myself at the same time, try to be laser focused before the game, block out the outside noise just to be myself. And after the game, kind of sink into me a little bit more. But before the game, I try to not think about that and just play my game.
Finally, just before we get to, I want to talk about sort of aspirations of playing possibly for the Chinese national team. But how much do you feel that playing for the King Rebellion in the OJHL has helped you out? You mentioned you're a late bloomer, so you get a chance to get more ice time in the OJHL with a high level of play as well. But you know, you guys made the move from Brantford to King this season. What's it been like for you, the experience with this organization, and how do you feel it's helped your game overall?
Obviously, started last year with the Brantford 99ers. You come like playing there as a 16-year-old wasn't easy at all. You had great players and great coaching staff. And unfortunately, I got injured. I broke my first rib at the start of the season in October. It took me in 12 weeks to to get back. So I learned a lot during that time, just be patient with myself, not to be too high, not to be too low, and just building the fundamentals of my body, kind of go to the weight room more, just grow into my body. And when I came back, I was stronger than ever. I was faster than ever. So that really eased into my game as well. And during the playoff, I gotta give credit to my coach Mark and Mike Dales. They really developed my physical play and my defensive side of the game. And this year, obviously, is starting to getting more offensive look as well. And yeah.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun to watch. And just finally, before I let you go, Simon took time out of his busy class schedule to talk to you today, so it's been great. But China, the Chinese, pardon me, national team. Now, have you already had a chance to play for under 18 or something? I'm not sure, but is this one of your aspirations long term to be able to play for the Chinese men's national team?
Yeah, 100%. Every time I can represent my country, I'll love to. Whether it's national team, under 20, whatever. If I have a chance to, I'll always do it. And I think I take pride of my my background, and I'll always do.
It's been great having you on. The attention is only going to get more intense as we get along throughout the season, especially if you continue performing the way you have. You've been phenomenal to watch so far. And you're a great story, man. Nothing but the best to you, and hope to see you continue to do it. We look forward to seeing you with Boston University and hopefully in the NHL one day. So take care, Simon, and thanks for joining.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Yeah, what a great story Simon has been. The scouts have been out in droves to watch him all season for good reason. So before Hayden Burnell hops on, just a few news notes to go over. The CCHL OJHL Battle of Ontario, which will take place between the two leagues, has had a date change. It'll now be held November 19th and 20th in Smiths Falls. Dates were changed due to a scheduling conflict. There will be an all-star game between teams and prospects teams from both leagues facing off. You will definitely see Simon Wang there, along with the 4 other OJHL players on the NHL's Players to Watch list, who we will talk a bit more in a few minutes with Hayden. The latest CJHL rankings came out. Leamington came in at number 3. Halliburton is at number 10. And Trenton is 13th. Collingwood picked up an honorable mention. Tate Collins of the Toronto Patriots confirmed his commitment to join NCAA Division I school Union College. And good news, Pats fans, he's not going until the fall of 2026. So you've got all this year and next to watch him in the OJ. Tate is an 07 birth date who's averaging nearly a point per game this season. Congrats, Tate. The league's scoring race is dominated right now by 04 and 05 birth dates, but 06 Parker Forlan of the Niagara Falls Canucks is 8th overall. The only 06 birth date in the top 10. Parker's having a fantastic season, racking up 27 points in just 17 games. Another 06 in the top 20 is Nate Brentonell of the Mississauga Chargers. He is the ultimate setup man. Nate has just 4 goals, but 20 assists as well, with 24 points in just 20 games. And one more 06 in the top 20. That's it. Matthew Soulier of Trenton. The rookie has racked up 22 points in only 15 games for the powerful Golden Hawks. And I am so pleased to be joined now by the social media manager for the King Rebellion, Hayden Burnell. Hayden, thanks for taking the time. How are things going?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. They're going well, thank you.
Well, we just had Simon Wang on the show, and he's the guy that you've had the chance to watch a lot this season. So we figured you'd have a great perspective on him. You had a chance to watch him last season as well, of course, with the Brantford 99ers. You were with the 99ers before the organization made the move to King. So talk about that, how you've seen Simon's game evolve over the past 2 seasons.
For sure. So, yeah, last year with him being a rookie in the league, he didn't have the most confidence. He was still a force out there, of course, but I've definitely noticed this year, like over the summer, it's been one of the biggest improvements I've seen in any player in watching a lot of hockey. Um, Not just his confidence level, but his skating, the way he uses his size, his shot, his strength, and then just him as a person. I mean, last year I joined Brantford a little bit late, so I joined them right before the showcase last year. Um, so it was about a couple weeks into the season, and I was feeling a bit nervous, a bit out of place, like joining this new hockey team. But Simon, even as a rookie off the ice, he was one of the kids that stood out and made me feel really welcome and really part of the team right away. And over this past year and a bit, I've grown to know him as a person, and off the ice, he's just as great of a person as he is a player on the ice.
Right. I mean, at 6'6" and 215 pounds, you'd expect him to look like Bambi out there. I mean, a lot of guys, big guys, it takes them a while to really grow into their body. I cannot believe his skating ability, his puck control, his vision on the ice. I do the OJ reels as well that go up on Instagram. I just did one on Simon from a couple days ago, and there was just so much good footage to draw on this guy. I'm blown away by that. Just talk about how this guy's grown into his body and how he's able to have such good control of it, despite being so big at such a young age.
It's incredibly rare, that's for sure. When you think of bigger players, skating is not, their biggest strength, and it's just one of Simon's many strengths. Like, he has adapted into his size, and he's able to use it to box players out to keep control of the puck. He also looks like he has eyes on the back of his head, like the way he just sees things. He has the skating ability of let's say Quentin Byfield, who's also a bigger guy,
Yeah.
who can just skate like you haven't seen before. And it's really a sight to see someone with that size have that ability, truly.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so let's get away. We've talked a lot about Simon Wang, but his teammate, Mikhail Zakharov, also was listed on NHL Central Scouting's players to watch list, and he's having a tremendous season. He's an interesting story as well. We talked about Simon coming over from China. Well, Zakharov is a native of Russia who only came over, I believe, last season was his first one, and it wasn't even in the OJHL. It was with the Red Wings in the GTHL. Talk about the season he's had and his a little bit of his story coming over.
Yeah, so meeting him at first, I mean, I didn't know much about his background, of course. I asked the head coach, Mark Joslin, more about him at the beginning of the season, and first thing that Coach Jaws said to me is he's legit. And he was right. Like, I mean, he's been a force in this league. He does not seem like a rookie. He's really meshed well with our other Russian player, Artem Narbakov, who I also feel has made him more comfortable as, Zakharov, English isn't, fully adapted yet. So I know Artem has made him feel really welcome, really at home. And then their on-ice chemistry has just been another sight to see. Like, they, their plays together. And then Zakharov, he just doesn't look like a rookie in this league. He has the size already. He has the skating ability like Simon. He has a wicked shot, and he's able to just make space out there when you almost feel like there's no play to make. He's able to find open space, keep the play going, and keep the offensive pressure on. He's also quite the sight to see.
Tons of scouts at your games, obviously, this year with these two guys on the watch list. What's that been like?
So, yeah, it's different. I mean, Brantford last year, unfortunately, we had a bit of a struggle with attendance. I mean, the Bulldogs of the OHL had just moved to Brantford. So, of course, everyone's excited of the new OHL team. So, from our move to King, seeing the community really embrace the team, um, including Nobleton and Schaumburg, like all of the minor hockey teams who have come to the games, the amount of fans, and then, yeah, the scouts is something else. Like, I remember seeing a bunch at the showcase last year, but other than that, mostly just when we were at different rinks. But this year, seeing the sheer amount of scouts there, it's definitely different, and it's very cool, and it's amazing how King Township has really embraced this team as their own, and they have a bright future there for sure.
For sure. No, I've loved seeing it. Let's move on to other league news because 3 other players were named to Central Scouting's players to watch list. Let's just briefly touch on each one of them first, and we hope we get this name right. But with a name like Bastiavansky, I should be able to nail these other names. But Jonathan Kapagiridis, Jonathan, hope I got it right, the defenseman from the Coburg Cougars. Something else, 20 points in 18 games so far. I don't know if you remember a few years ago, a defenseman named Joey Maziarz from the North York Rangers. He kind of reminds me of Joey, just how mobile he is. Such an offensive threat. As mentioned, 20 points in 18 games so far. Talk about what you've seen from Jonathan.
So, yeah, I got a chance to see him a couple times at the showcase this year. The Rebellion had their first game against Coburg, and then I did the play-by-play for when they played their second game against Burlington, and I felt like I was saying his name constantly because he was all over the ice, involved in almost every play. And then on the power play, it seemed like he was their quarterback. He's someone that can run a play and make something out of nothing almost, and he is quite a force out there. With the amount of points he's put up on Coburg, it's been impressive. And yeah, I definitely think that he has a good shot at getting drafted for sure. He's just all over the ice. He's a force in every single way.
2 goalies on the list. Let's start with Michael Newlove of the Georgetown Raiders, who's faced a lot of pucks this season. What have you seen from Michael?
When I think of Michael Newlove, it takes me back to last season when I was in Brantford. They had a game against Caledon, and he was APing for them. And he ended up coming into the game. It was a high-scoring game, and he had this unbelievable highlight reel save. I believe he did like almost a cartwheel to the other side of the net, and when I saw it, my jaw just dropped. And I still think that save in person is the most insane save I've ever seen. And then when I saw his name pop up again this year as a full-time goalie in this league, I wasn't surprised at all. He definitely has the tools. He does face a lot of shots. I've seen that in his games against the Rebellion. He has stood out. He's made some huge saves to keep his team in the games and whatnot. And he's very mobile and he's also very young. So to be that much of a force at his age, it's quite impressive.
It is, yeah. We were talking about that last week as well, about Levshin from the Toronto Patriots, about being, as he just turned 18 as well, and he's been utterly dominant this season. And normally you don't see that from goalies until they're a little bit older, but the goaltending crop in the league this year has just been unbelievable. One other guy on the watch list, another goalie, Noah Tegelar of Collingwood. Interesting story about him. Of course, he was the OJHL Rookie of the Year last year with the Blind River Beavers. Comes to Collingwood. I mean, the Blues talk about the rich getting richer. They've got Noah Pack for the past few seasons, who, of course, was pretty much the best goalie in all of junior A hockey in Canada. And then Noah Tegelar comes in, and, he's listed on the NHL watch list for the draft next year. He's having a lights-out season with the Blues. What a fantastic pickup. Obviously, he deserves to be on this list as well, Hayden.
Definitely. And when people think of Collingwood, they just think, okay, the goalie has it easy. Maybe they have to make a save here and there, and the offense will do the rest. That's not the case. And of course they're a dominant team. However, Noah Pack and Noah Tegelar, they have to come up with some big saves. King put up in their last game. King put up almost 30 shots on Tegelar, and Tegelar only let one in. He has these big games. I believe he already has 3 shutouts. He kind of reminds me of Noah Pack in the sense of, okay, yeah, you're on a good team, but you still have work to do, to get this team wins. Collingwood at the beginning of the season, they had, a couple losses that they weren't expecting. So I don't think people realize that for a team like Collingwood, goaltending is still of massive importance. And Tegelar, they found their guy for sure.
Yeah, no, it's a good point to touch on that. Of course, I mean, goaltending is always going to be important, especially if they want to get back-to-back, 3 Bucklands in a row and back-to-back centennials. That's the ultimate goal this year for the Blues, right? So let's touch on some hot teams right now. Leamington, we'll start with them on a 7-game win streak right now, ranked as the highest OJHL team in the CJHL ranking. Still, they're still in that number 3 spot. And Colton Smith on a 7-game point streak. How good has he been this year? He's racked up 17 points over that time. Leamington just continues to bring it, Hayden.
They're a sight to see for sure. I know the Rebellion, they give it all they have against Leamington, and they're just a force. It is impressive considering they just made the step up from Junior B. But as soon as they made it as soon as they joined this league, like, they were a dominant force. And then this year picking up Marcus Vandenberg in net, he has just been out of this world for them. When Spencer Vandenberg was still on the Rebellion, I was chatting with him a lot. Excuse me. He was the only one able to score on his brother against, like, when they played each other for the first game or their first matchup of the season. I believe it was a 2-1 final. So they picked up an amazing goalie there in Vandenberg, and then their offense is just out of this world. They got, the Grunner brothers, Colton Smith, he's incredible. Bosev, like, they're just putting up points, and then they can't stop. I was seeing some of their plays they were making against the Patriots, and they're just making it look so easy.
100%. Halliburton had their 11-game win streak snapped last Friday, but are ranked 10th in the CJHL, and of course they went out and won their next 2 after that, so they've got to be in their bonnet now. But Halliburton, again, rocking it right now, despite having their 11-game win streak snapped. They are looking strong. They've
been a massive surprise to see. I mean, when I think of Halliburton, I got to shout out my guy Cam Hankai. He was on the 99ers last year, but props to him. He's joined a great team that seems to just be meshing in all ways possible. And I wish them nothing but success, and they are definitely having a great start to the season, no doubt.
The third team ranked in the CJHL rankings, Trenton coming in at 13th, and they are 8-2 over their last 10. So basically par for the course in Trenton. Hayden, we always expect them to be up there, but they're great so far again this year.
Absolutely, yeah. Their offense has continued to take off from last season. Same situation there with their goaltending and Brady Spry. Like, they've got their guy, and they play with this level of confidence. And it's like when you're up against Trenton, it's almost intimidating because they just have. I feel like they have this chemistry that year after year they're able to hold on to and keep with this core. And I think, like last year, like the year before, they're going to go far.
Finally, let's give a shout out to Pickering for a moment here, and what you've seen from Pickering this year, because they're unbeaten in their last 5, and they are the team that ended Halliburton's 11-game winning streak last Friday. So great stuff in Pickering. Of course, the champs from, I guess it was 3 seasons ago now. Can't believe how fast time is flying, but great to see Pickering competitive again. And what have you seen from the Panthers so far this year?
So I saw at the showcase, I believe, one of their guys get a hat trick in that game. They've been able to put the puck in the net, which, a team like that needs. They have Gavin Betts in net, who I believe was named to the U17 Team Canada roster. And then they just picked up this other goalie from the OHL who's been a force for them, helping them get wins. And it's good seeing a team like that able to come together, go on a ride like this. And they've been playing their hearts out for sure.
No doubt. Well, listen, Hayden, really appreciate you coming on, giving some insight into 2 of the top young players on the King Rebellion, and talking also about this great relocation from Brantford to the King Township this season that's been so well received by the community. Really appreciate it. We'll do this again this season, and take care, my friend.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, Alex.
And that is going to wrap it up for today's show then. Thank you so much for tuning in to our second broadcast. And, hopefully you're enjoying what we're doing here with the OJHL All Access podcast. Again, please let us know in the comments what you think, what you'd like to see on future shows. Keep in mind, we are doing this all year long, so if we didn't get to something this week, we'll try to get to it next time. Until then, thank you to my guests, Simon Wang and Hayden Burnell, and thank you for watching. We'll see you next week.